Today we're going to be going through the multi-part part studio modeling exercises for Onshape learning. So I'm just going to be going through all the tutorials, showing you guys how to do all the exercises, explaining what I'm doing as I'm going. So hopefully this is helpful as a video tutorial walkthrough, or if you're stuck somewhere, you can use this to help you get through it. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to my second monitor, and then we're going to focus on Onshape. So we're going to start with exercise 1, creating a master sketch. Okay, so first thing we want to do is make sure we're in millimeters. Oopsies. Let's see here. So workspace property. Nope, that's not it. Workspace units. Okay, I am in inches, so I'll just change that to millimeters. Everything else is fine. Doesn't really matter. Okay, and then they want us to create a sketch on the front plane, so we'll go ahead and click sketch, click our front plane, and then they want us to name it master sketch, so we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, moving right along. Okay, so they want us to make a bunch of lines, so I'll go ahead and do that. Press Q for construction mode. So go ahead and normal up, press N for normal to the plane. Okay, so we'll go ahead and make this line here, and then I'm just going to sketch all of the lines I see they want us to add. And then here I think they want these lines to be symmetric, so you can either use the mirror tool or create it and then add the symmetric constraint later. Okay, so now I see it looks like this and this and this and this are supposed to be equal, so E for equals. And then we'll do that. Okay, perpendicular, so grab my perpendicular tool from my sketch menu, make those perpendicular. This line is horizontal, yep, we see the implicit constraint there. These 2 points are symmetric, so grab symmetric constraint, click the points, and then click the line. You could also click your top plane here instead of having a construction line. Actually, I think I'll do that. So I'll get rid of my construction line because I don't need it, and I'll just use the top plane instead. But you could also use the construction line. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, and then this is the midpoint. Oh, okay, so they will actually want this back here to be a single construction line, and then they want the midpoint of this line to be the origin. So that isn't immediately clear. And you could also have your two lines, make them coincident using I for coincident, and then make them equal. That's the same thing as a midpoint line. You would just have two line segments instead of one, which is maybe a little less optimal. But yeah, so after that we can see we have this sort of movement, and we can see everything is coming along. So I'll just make sure I haven't missed any constraints. See my equals, midpoint, perpendicular, horizontal, symmetric. Okay, cool. All right, moving right along. So now we're supposed to make a bunch of circles, so we'll go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to rough them all first. C for circle, okay. So circle, 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 big circle, and then circle, little circle. Okay, and then all the circles labeled A. Okay, so I see this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And you'll notice I haven't actually pressed equals yet, but I can do that now by pressing E for equals. And so that's taking advantage of a pre-selection mode. So obviously you can click equals and then like click, 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 click back and forth. But you can actually pre-select everything before activating the constraint. And then that will do them all at once for you, which is convenient. So now we'll grab these guys, and once again I'll press E for equals, right? And then they'll all become equal all at once, which is convenient. Okay, yeah, so now we can see if I do this, they're all equal, and if I do this, they're all equal. So that's good. All right, and now we're supposed to add a dimension. So this is the first dimension we're adding. So I'll go ahead and pull out this line. I could also do this, grab the 2 points, and then you can see there's 3 possibilities here. Obviously I want this one in this case. And so the first dimension you add to a sketch will scale it. So here when I go from 343 to 175, you see my entire sketch scales down to match that. And that's just like a default behavior that Onshape does. Now I'll go ahead and add my remaining dimensions. I see a 50 here, and then they want a 10 on this inner circle here, and then there's a 25 on this guy here, not 256. And then there's a 75 up here. Okay. Yeah, so now we've got those. Cool. All right, so now they want us to go ahead and draw in some more of our geometry. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'll toggle off construction mode, grab my line using L. So now here, this is very important to pay attention to the implicit constraints, because like here, for example, we can see it's trying to give us this parallel constraint. You can see in the middle of the circle there. You know, I'm getting a bunch of different options. Like here I can grab the parallel, here I grab the tangent. So in this case, I don't necessarily want the parallel. I think it's actually technically okay, because you know, if you think these circles are the same radius, so this line is going to be parallel to that line. But I think the tangent more closely matches what we want. And then, of course, if you can't find it, the easiest thing to do is just press and hold Shift so you don't get any constraint, auto constraints at all. And then you can manually add them after. So I for coincident and then T for tangent is probably the easiest way to go about this without running into issues with auto constraints or constraints that you don't want. Okay, so we will add that, make it coincident and tangent. I'll go ahead and do this line, construction, and then I'll grab this line. So here I'm just doing the coincidence. I could also probably get the tangent if I really wanted to. So like here you can see I can get the coincident, I can also get the tangent if I find the sweet spot. So like, oh, I actually don't want that line, I want this line. Yeah, so you just want to be super mindful of what constraints you're getting. And then here, let's see here. Yeah, so I think in this intersection, wow, they really don't give any instructions. Two vertices indicated are horizontal to each other. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Okay, so they want these two vertices up here to be horizontal, which is kind of wild. That's not normally how you constrain things. And I'll go through and add my tangent constraints to everything else as well, because I got the coincidence on the first time around. So you can see that's all black now, so that's good. And then I have these two lines here. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw this in and draw this in. You notice there I was careful not to get the auto constraint because I just want the coincident. I don't want anything else. And then I'll make this tangent and tangent. Right, okay, and then I have it like this. And so they just have it blue, which I think is okay here. Wow, this is, yeah, very confusing. But we'll leave that blue for now, and we'll move on and see what happens. Okay, so on to the next step. Okay, yeah, so here they want, they're clarifying, they do want a parallel, so B for parallel, I call it the parallel constraint, and then you can make it parallel, and then here they want this to be tangent to the circle, so then it's fully constrained like that, we can see, so we're very happy. Okay, and then we have down here, yeah, so once again, we're going to add some tangent lines, line here, and then here. Once again, careful just to get the coincident. I could also get the tangent here, which I do have to add, so that works. But just want to be very mindful of that. And then here, I believe, if I show constraints, yeah, you can see I don't have the tangent constraint, so I'm going to go ahead and add that. And now I do have the tangent, you can see that there, and there's the coincident, 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 and then there's the tangent that I got automatically. So you can see all your constraints that way too. Okay, yep, and then, oh, and there's also these lines down here that they're adding, so we'll do the same thing again, line, I get the line and tangent there automatically. Here's a case where I do not want this perpendicular constraint. You can see it's trying to make this line here perpendicular to this one. In this mode, and I don't want that. That is very arbitrary and probably not at all correct. Here again, it's giving me the tangent, but it's also making it vertical to the midpoint of this, which is crazy. And so if I keep going, here I can find the coincident and tangent. And once again, you can press and hold Shift to disable auto constraints and then just constrain it manually is also perfectly viable if you're nervous about getting the wrong constraint or you're not familiar with the icons or things like that. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add our tangents now. T for tangent, dum-dum-dum. And then, I'm not sure, okay, yep, I need the tangent here, and now we're fully constrained. So grabbing the point and clicking and dragging when it's blue, if you're not sure how it has much greater freedom, is good. You can also drag by the line, but it's kind of janky. Like here, it doesn't move at all when I click and drag this line. And so I'm probably going to have a much better time with the points. It's just kind of some weird Onshape quirks. Okay. Yeah, and then now here again, they're asking us on the next step to make this parallel, B for parallel. I believe, yep, to the center line, and then here they want this to be tangent once again. So kind of janky that they leave those unconstrained until the next step, but okay. All right, so now let's see here. So we got some sketch fillets. So we'll go ahead and do those. So I can click the point here and the point here. And then you can see I have the click to confirm icon, so I could click anywhere right now to confirm, but I'm not quite ready yet because I want to show you the manipulator. So I can kind of click and drag to play with it. And then once I'm ready, I'll just click out here to confirm. And then you'll see it activates the dialog, so I can enter a value, and they're saying R15. So go ahead and punch that in. Okay, and then we need 4 additional circles. So we'll go ahead and sketch those roughly to begin with. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right, and then they all need to be equal. So I'll once again grab all 4 of them and then press equals to make them all equal. Ta-da! And then I don't see a dimension for them. Yeah, I don't see a dimension, so that's fine. And then we move on to the next step, and now we do have to add our dimension, which is going to be 15. Okay, cool. And we can see our sketch is fully defined, so we've done it. If at this point your sketch is not fully defined, maybe you're missing like a tangent constraint or something, right? The way to troubleshoot that is to find a point, click and drag it, see what degree of freedom you have. So like here in this case, we can see we're missing the tangent, obviously. But like if we were missing this coincident, for example, right? Maybe this is the behavior you see where it's tangent to the circle, but it's not necessarily touching it, right? And so in this case, you need the coincident to say that, hey, this line, this point needs to be on the circle, because the tangent just makes this line in line with the circle, but doesn't necessarily say anything about where the endpoint has to be. So we'll go ahead and add that with coincident. So you can hopefully do a little bit of troubleshooting or go back and watch the video again to figure out what your problem is. Okay, and so here we're good, so we'll go ahead and confirm the sketch, green check mark. And then they ask us to validate it by clicking the 3 regions and then getting the area, and I'm sure this is correct. So, well, I guess I'll do it for posterity. Do actually make this sketch if you're actually doing it. Like, I know you could just cheat off of me or whatever, but that's kind of cringe. Okay, so, yeah. 8301, and we do see that, and it is correct. Okay, so we're moving right along. So that wasn't too bad. So now we're on to exercise creating multiple parts in a part studio. Okay, we don't have to copy the workspace because we just did it, so we already have it. And so now we're going to go ahead and create an extrude. So we'll grab our extrude, and then they want us to grab the closed contours. Yeah, so that's going to be this, and then also this inside, and also this. Actually, wait, hold on. Is it faster? It's a little faster. Okay, so you can obviously click stuff manually, like one by one, like this in the graphics window. You can also click a sketch in the feature tree, right? And so here you can see it gives us faces of master sketch all at once. And so this gets us most of the way to where we want to be. I do think we also need, yes, these regions here, so we'll go ahead and add those as well. And then one thing I'll point out is when you click it in the graphics window, oh, I guess we don't want these faces, okay. So then you can see it expands it for us automatically when we deselect that because we're no longer using all the faces of Master Sketch. But obviously in a case like this, it could be faster significantly. But then the other thing is it is more robust when you are just using the faces. Obviously with our sketch we can't do that. But then, that way if we were to add faces or change faces or whatever, then we wouldn't have to go back and reselect them or edit our extrude, because it would always just grab whatever faces that sketch generates automatically. Okay, and then we want our depth to be 5 millimeters. Yeah, okay, and then we want to make sure our extrude direction is facing this way, so out of the front plane. So it could be like this, which would be wrong. And that's also this control here. Same thing. Okay, and this looks correct to me. So we'll go ahead and confirm that, and then he wants to rename it to large arm. So the way we do that is you go down to the parts list, right click, click rename, and we can enter our name, large arm. Okay, cool. So that looks pretty good. Okay, and now we have to show our sketch again. So anytime you use a sketch, it hides it automatically, just kind of like a cute behavior, but we need it again. Okay, yeah, so now we're gonna go ahead and create our large arm, or our small arm. So one thing I will point out with this, right? So I'll demonstrate this behavior, right? So when I first create the extrude feature, actually let me show you that again. So when I first create the extrude feature, you see I'm a solid, I'm on new part, right? And I don't have any settings set, right? When I click this face, watch what happens, right? We see the mode changes from new to add, right? And we see the merge scope appears, and the merge scope has already been populated with large arm, right? And so this is what's called editing logic, right? So features in Onshape can have editing logic that runs when you create and edit features. And so sometimes that can be helpful, sometimes not so much. In this case, it's changed us from new to add, and we've merged. And so you can see we actually only have one part here instead of two. So we're adding on to large arm. We're not actually creating a new part here, right? And so sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's what you want. In this case, we do want to be making a new part. So this is actually wrong. And so this is something you have to be very mindful of anytime you're creating an extrude next to other parts. As Onshape does have this propensity to change it to add and fill in the merge scope for you. And so you have to be on the watch for that. And so like here you can see if you only had one part, or if we went to the assembly and this was already here, we would know like, oh, we don't actually want to add to this. Maybe our extrude got changed to add automatically. We didn't want that. So here I'll change it back to new. And now you can see we have a new part in the parts list, and we can see they're two separate parts, which is what we want. Okay, so I'll go ahead and select the rest of my faces now. So I'll just do that. And I also want to make sure I grab this interface here, and I need to make sure my sketch is shown. Yep, and I also want this interface here, right? And then of course here the direction is wrong. We don't want to be clipping through. So I'll go ahead and click this flip to get it facing the right way. Make sure I got all the faces. Yep, that looks right. And then I'll set my depth to 5 millimeters as well. And that should be what we want. Yeah, and then we'll go ahead and rename this to small arm as well. And once again, if you don't have a small arm, you only have a large arm, make sure it's not add. It didn't change it for you automatically. Do not select the smallest circles in the master sketch. Yeah, right. Okay. All right, cool. So now we want to sketch. Having you sketch on the. Okay. Yeah, okay, so now we got to make a sketch to keep going so we can make our grips. So here they want us to sketch on the plane. And so one thing I'll point out, right, is if your master sketch is shown, you can very easily end up sketching on a face of the master sketch, which is not ideal necessarily. So they want you to hide it to make sure you select here. That's actually a little counterintuitive in my opinion. I think it would actually be better to grab the front plane because these references are the most robust of all. But we'll stick with their suggestion for now. But you definitely don't want to sketch on master sketch because that could lead to some weird behaviors. It's also just not very robust because if we change the sketch at all or like were to edit it in the future, you could lose that reference and you have to go fix it, and it's kind of tedious and annoying. So generally in order of priority, like part faces, or like you always want to do like default geometry, construction planes, and then these three: origin, top, front, right plane, because these are 100% robust. They're never going to get deleted or removed or whatever. then if you don't have a choice, sometimes sketching on a part face can be okay. And then kind of your last resort, I would say, is sketching on like a sketch face. Okay, so we got this, and then they rename it to large arm grip sketch. Fair enough. Okay, cool. So that looks good. We'll move on. All right. So here, oh boy. Okay, so their part is gray, so it's actually this. Yeah, so they're talking about this here, which is not intuitive at all. And then here I don't have the center line because I didn't use it. I just used the top plane instead. You probably you might have a center line depending on what you're doing. But yeah, so this is a point of confusion, right? You could, I've seen one student got confused and we're sketching down here. That's not what you want. You do want to be up here on the large arm with our sketch. And so we'll go ahead and draw in this geometry here. So I'll go ahead and just create a center point, and I'll just make it arbitrary in space for now. Or actually, okay, I see. So they want us to use the hole. So I'll grab my use tool here, right? And then I have a couple options, right? Also, whether or not I have my master sketch will affect things. And so like I could also, for example, use the underlying sketch, which I actually think is the most robust thing, because like the part could get deleted or changed or whatever, but the sketch is more likely to stick around. So I could use it like that, and that gives me this edge in my sketch. So it's equivalent to creating a circle and then making it coincident to that circle. Or like, I'll show you what it's equivalent to. So, so the use constraint just adds geometry to your sketch based off of other geometry. So another equivalent way of doing this is creating a circle, making it coincident, and then making this coincident. And I do see I'm getting this blue outline. It's stuck on. This is actually a bug. It's been around for 4 years now, 5 years. It gets reported on the forums every now and then. Every once in a while, the preview entity just gets stuck on. Like, there's some issue with like a cleanup routine or something. WebGL doesn't delete it properly. And the funny thing is it actually persists between like part studios. So if I change to like a new part studio, you can see it's still on in this one. And even if I go to like an assembly, it'll stick there. But there's an easy way to fix it, it's just to refresh the browser. So if you ever see like a blue outline stuck on, you can fix it by doing that. And then I'll turn back on dark mode. I need to set it in my user preferences, but anyway. Okay, so we got our circle. So you can constrain it like I did, or use the use constraint. You can use, this edge, or the sketch like I did. Doesn't really matter. So we got our edge, and then we're going to go ahead and grab our center point rectangle here, right? And then they want us to be 1 millimeter from our center point line, which is also equivalent to this top plane. So I'll go ahead and grab the top plane, grab my dimension, make sure I'm on the right side of it, because obviously if this was underneath, then I would be dimensioning it out and down instead of up like I want to. So I'll go ahead and make that 1 millimeter. And then, let's see here, this is okay, we have our triangle, so I'll just roughly sketch that in, like this. Q for construction mode to toggle it. I see I'm getting a vertical constraint here and making that coincident, which is good. And then I see this point here is on the midpoint of this bottom line, so I'll go ahead and add that. I see these two lines are equal. And then I see this 10 millimeter dimension, so I could like dimension it like this, for example. I could also like click this line and do it. That would also work. And then let's see here. Yeah, okay, so the sides of the rectangle are equal as well, so I'll go ahead and make that equal. And then what else do we have here? Oh, there's a 10 millimeter here, so I can grab these 2 points, and then I can go ahead and make this 10 millimeters as well. Okay, cool, so that's fully constrained, so we're quite happy with that, so we'll go ahead and accept it. Okay, and now we have to make another one. So once again, they want us to be sketching on this face. I'll go ahead and hide these sketches, and I'll show my large arm again for posterity. And so once again, they want us to sketch again. And so here we want to be careful to be getting this outside face, I guess. Might become important later. Cool. And so I'll show my large arm grip sketch. Go back. Yeah, so yeah, once again, they want us to use, so this time I'll oblige and use it. So I could use this one or this one. You can see it doesn't matter. It projects it onto my sketch plane. I'll grab that. And then I will make my rectangle. Yeah, and then here they're showing, so you can actually add constraints between outside geometry. So for example, because these two rectangles are the same, I could go ahead and make these two lines equal, for example, even though they're not in the same sketch. That just works magically, which is pretty cool actually. And so, and then I'll go ahead and sketch this in, right? And then again, the same thing, these lines are the same, so I can just make them all equal. I don't actually have to add any new dimensions or things, and that's actually enough to fully constrain this, because I also got the implicit midpoint when I created this line as well. If I didn't, I could like make these two lines coincident so they're in line, or I could add the midpoint, of course. Lots of ways to do it. And then one other thing I'll point out when I show constraints, some of these constraints are in blue. And so a blue constraint is a constraint to something that is outside of the sketch. And so here you can see, for example, this equals constraint that I added. It shows up as blue because this is an equal constraint between this line, and this line is not in our sketch. And so same thing over here with these equals and the U's, because I'm using an edge that's not in our sketch. So use constraints will always show up in blue actually, because you're using stuff that's not in your sketch. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go ahead and confirm that. Keep trucking right along. Okay, so now we're flipping around to this side, and then they're going ahead and creating a reference plane that is offset 25 millimeters from this face. And once again, okay, it doesn't matter because it's on the other side, but you know, you can show and hide things as well to have clear view. Let's see, what is even happening here? Okay, so we're making a 25 millimeter offset, and we're going to rename this to midplane, not to be confused with the midplane mode of plane, which we're not using here. They're just calling it midplane because semantically this is like the midplane of our arm, I suppose. Okay, and then 25 millimeters, so that looks right. Yeah, seems reasonable. Okay, and so now we're going to extrude a bunch of pins, which I'm sure will be fun. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Okay, so I need to make a new extrude feature. And then, okay, we'll use the master sketch to create the 3 pins, sure. Okay, so we are choosing the medium circle to extrude. So I'm gonna go ahead and hide my parts, and then hide this sketch. I guess we'll rename this to small arm grip sketch while we're at it, just for posterity. Okay, extrude. So we want to be grabbing master sketch. I'm gonna hide these parts. Okay, so we want the medium circle to extrude. So, wow, these lines are not great. That's fine. I'll also hide my planes, so I have the easiest time possible selecting what I want. So it's just my master sketch. Okay, so I want to extrude the medium circle. If I lean in here, okay. So that's this guy here, I'm pretty sure. That makes sense. And they're showing here and here. Okay. And then we want to be going up to face of our midplane. So I'm going to change this from blind to up to face. And then I'm going to change my selection from this box to this box so I can select it, or I think it happened automatically actually. But you know, if you want to add stuff to your extrude, you have to change it to faces and sketch regions exclude, and then you can click stuff. Otherwise, if you want to go up to face, you have to change it to this, and then now this is active, so now I can select my face to extrude up to. So if you're ever trying to select something and Onshape's not letting you, make sure you have the right selection box activated. But okay, so we'll go ahead and choose our midplane, and then nice thing, when we select a midplane, Onshape likes to use editing logic to figure out which way our opposite direction should be. And so there are cases where it will actually change it automatically to you, so that way you're actually getting a valid extrude. Because if it's facing this way, obviously if you try to extrude up to face in this direction, you're never going to find the face. It's just going to fail. So there's some, yeah, so there are upsides to editing logic when it's not changing your extrude to add when you don't want it to. Anyway, okay, and then we're supposed to have a second end position here, and then we're supposed to be going up to face, and they want us to go up to extrude 1. They didn't name their part? That's crazy. Okay, so that's this way, so then I assume the second direction. Oh, okay, so they want the pin to start. Let's see here. Let me make sure. Oh, did I? This is wild. Okay, choose the medium circle extrude. Front view. Okay. Yup. Large arm pin. Okay. In one direction, use the end type up to face and let the reference plane labeled mid plane. In the opposite direction, use the up to face end type again, but this time extrude up to the face of the large arm as indicated. Okay, so I assume they want us to be extruding up to here. And then I might need to flip my direction. Okay, so essentially what they're doing is they're saying, it's a little confusing because they're extruding up to this face, but it actually ends up just being the start. So what ends up happening is you get everything between, oh, yeah, so you can see here, actually it did change to add automatically, which we don't want, right? So you can see the editing logic kicking in, this time to our detriment. So I'll go ahead and change it back to nude. But now you can see, so we're extruding up to the start face and then we're extruding up to the plane, so we're getting everything in between, which is neat, I suppose. I don't actually know if that's, I think our plane's on the wrong side. Let me go back and check. Hum-da-dum-da-dum. Yep, it sure is. So this midplane is actually supposed to be over here. So we just flip that around. Okay. And so, oopsies. And so now we're going to have to flip this as well to match. And so that looks closer to what Onshape's going for here, as far as I can tell. Yeah. So that looks right then. So it does clip, which I'm sure they'll cover through. Okay, so that's pretty complicated, but we got there. Okay, and then this part down here is named the pivot pin. And this part up here is named the large arm pin. Okay, so far so good. Okay. And so now we come down here. Once again, we want our front view. They want the medium circle down here. I'll go ahead and hide our parts again. We can hide them all at once like that and show our master sketch. Extrude. Okay, and we want this circle and also the inside of it. Cool. And then once again, we're going up to face and we're going up to our mid plane. And so I can click it in the feature list, for example, which is convenient. And let me show my small arm. Yeah, okay, yep, so this is right. And you can see editing logic changed the direction for us, which is nice. Okay, yep, that looks right. Cool, we'll go ahead and confirm that, and we'll go ahead and rename this to small arm pin. Okay. Sheesh. Okay, let's see what we got here now. Okay, so now we're going to do a Boolean subtract. Yep. Okay, mislabeled this. Arm pin. Okay. Yep, so here we want to be doing a Boolean operation. So Boolean is just the, one thing I'll point out, right? So if you look at extrude, there's these modes, add, remove, intersect, right? And those actually correspond one-to-one with Boolean union, subtract, and intersect. So behind the scenes, all you're doing when you're using like an add extrude, for example, is you're extruding whatever geometry you're having, and then you're hitting it with a Boolean union in between your new geometry and whatever's in your merge scope to add them together and create one part. Or in this case, a remove. So a subtract. So our tools will be the large arm and the small arm. So we're going to be using these arms to cut these pins. And so we can go ahead and choose our pins as our targets. Once again, make sure you change the target so you're getting the right selection. Otherwise, you'll just get a bunch of tools and Onshape will be unhappy. And then we want to keep tools because by default, Onshape just deletes tools because it seems you don't need them anymore. But we do actually want them. And I am noticing we do want our pins to have a closed center. So we'll go ahead and edit our extrude. And we'll just go ahead and grab those faces as well. So we're getting a full pin. But yeah, so now if we scroll through the feature tree, right, so you can see we're extruding the pins like this, right? And then all we're doing in essence here, right, with this Boolean is we're taking the large arm and the small arm and we're using it to cut, you know, wherever the small arm is, it cuts away the pin. And so we get left with kind of the intersection of the two, or not really the intersection, but you get the idea. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Okay. All right, and now we're going to create the grips. So here, we'll go ahead and extrude these, and then I'm just going to click the sketches directly in the featured list, so you can see I'm getting faces. And then here we don't want the triangle, so we'll have to go ahead and deselect those, which it's not letting me because the sketch is hidden. So we'll show these sketches, and now I can deselect these. That's kind of weird. Okay. And then, why does that look so much smaller? Let's back up the bus here. Go back to step 7, step 6. 10 millimeters. That looks right. This is right. Okay, we'll go back. I'm gonna assume they're wrong, or I don't know. But yeah, so here I have to deselect both of these faces. And the reason why is because we're sketching on the face, right? What happens is, so by default, whenever you sketch on a face, right, Onshape will actually imprint that face onto your sketch. It's called sketch imprinting. So you can see here I actually have two regions, one here, and I have these regions down here. And you can see the plate is, you know, the differentiator there, right? And so that behavior is called sketch imprinting. And if you don't want that behavior, the easiest option is to just not sketch on a face and just sketch on like a plane, for example, and then you won't have that problem. But you can also disable it by clicking this disable imprinting option. And that will prevent these faces that you're sketching on from imprinting onto your sketch. So now you can see I only have this region and this region. And I no longer have like the in-between regions. So that's what this disable imprinting option in a sketch does. So it doesn't do anything if you're sketching on like a construction plane, but if you are sketching on a part face or something, it can stop it from messing up your sketch. So I'll go ahead and turn that off for these two guys. And now it's a little bit easier to, you know, I don't have to click multiple regions when I'm selecting and deselecting. I can just do it. Okay, cool. And then we can see they're having us make this up to the midplane as well. So we'll go ahead and do that. And that is good. Yep, and then we're going to rename these. So we have our large arm grip, and we have our small arm grip. Okay, cool. Seems reasonable. Yeah, and then you can see, so in between step 13 and 14, their triangle gets a lot bigger. So that might just be a visual angle thing, but I have a feeling they might have messed up a little bit. Anyway, okay, cool. So now, let's see here. Yeah, so we need to extrude the circle profile, sure. So they want us to grab this profile here and extrude it this way, right? And you can see Onshape changed it to add for us and tried to fill in the merge scope. It tried its best guess. So here it's extremely large arm grip. If we change it, it no longer finds that part. So now we have to set the merge scope ourselves, unfortunately. So we just make sure we have our merge scope activated, and then we can click our large arm grip. And then we want to be going up to face here, and we want to be going up to the other side. So that way we're nice and robust. Cool. That looks good to me. Keep cracking right along, and then now we want to do the same thing down here. So we'll grab this, make sure my small arm pin is shown, flip this around. Once again, I have to grab my merge scope, and then change this up to face, and we'll just go up to there. Cool. So you can see we now have that, which seems very reasonable. Okay. Let's see here, part mirror. Okay, sure. So yeah, so this is very reasonable. So we've only modeled half up to this point. So now we're going to use a part mirror. So we'll grab our mirror. We'll select our entities to mirror, which are all of these guys. And then our mirror plane. So here, this feature does not work if you don't know how to change selection boxes, right? I do have to click here to activate the mirror plane box, and then I can go and select my mirror plane. If I don't do that, then I don't get it. And then there are cases where Onshape might change it to add here. It didn't this time, so we'll change it to add manually. So you can kind of see what editing logic sometimes does for us, sometimes doesn't. And then our entities, our merge scope is going to be all of these because we want to add to them. And so you can see now we are editing these parts rather than creating new ones. Yeah, so that is very convenient. Do they just not show the merge scope? That's crazy. Yeah, so the other option is selecting all the parts is you can also just use merge with all. Oh, it actually doesn't work. Oh, because, oh, that's weird actually. Yeah, I don't know. You have to select them all manually. That's kind of weird actually. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so that is reasonable. Okay, cool. And so we now have this. If we hide our sketches, you can see it matches exactly, which is cool, except the colors are arbitrary, but we don't mind. Okay, and now we're going to fill it. So grab our fillet feature, and it needs to fill it. We'll grab these edges here, like so, not the face, please. Okay. And then here, and here, and here, and then it's giving us air geometry, so we have to set this to 2. Which is good. And then we'll also grab these guys here, and here, and here, and not the face. Yep, yep, and yep. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and confirm that. And then they want us to assign a material, so we'll click, shift click to get everything, right click, assign material. And then aluminum 160. Okay. 1060. Cool. All right. Very convenient. All right, there's a recap. Okay, and then they have us do some edits, which is fine. So we'll go ahead and edit our master sketch, right? One thing that's kind of fun here you can do is you can use the final button. So that just shows, so we're still in our sketch editing it up here. But it just shows the rollback bar at the bottom, so you can see the impact of all the changes we're making immediately. So here, this is supposed to be 300, so you can see that happens. 125, right? They want this to be 75. Nice, gets a little chunkier. This is going to be, yeah, this inner circle is 25. This radius here is 20. Let's see here. This radius here is 45. And this inner circle down here is 15. 15, please. And then, yeah, what's happening? I messed up somewhere. 25. Okay, I'll hide the parts. Or just turn off final. 15, 25. Why are these not coming along? That's weird. Wait, I have a circle. What is this circle? That's weird. What is this circle? Do I have duplicate circles? Okay, 75, 300, 125, 20 millimeters there. 75 here. 45 on the outside, 15 on the inside. Oh, is this supposed to be 45? Aha, and then this is supposed to be 25. Okay, so we got a little flipped around between our middle and our large. Okay, that was weird. Okay, that makes sense. And so if we click our final button and show all our parts, or just confirm the sketch, you can see that is correct now. Cool. All right, weird. Yeah, and then here we can enter our midplane feature. So once again, we'll use the final button, and you can see as we change the midplane, because everything is up to face, well, this is just like using the mirror feature, but because we're shooting up to face and everything, it just works, which is cool. So we can make it as wide or as small as we want. Yeah, and now we can do our mass properties. So we can go ahead and measure and grab this, and then our mass is, so then we click the scale, and now we have our mass properties here. Oh, I'm in pounds because I didn't change that, but we can just 1.634, and we can go ahead and do the checkoff, and 1.635 is an answer, and that's correct. So we did it. Yeah, so that is multi-part Part Studio modeling. Hopefully that made sense, and hopefully that helps you guys get through it. Yeah.